Welcome back. I'm Lady J1A. Here at Lady Justice Liberty Press, we are traveling from sea to shining sea in the constitutional cruiser, holding government accountable and transparent. If you believe that uniting together makes us stronger, hit that subscribe button and let us get into the law. Let's dig right into this explainer and unpack the exact legal framework governing police traffic stops and your constitutional rights.
Section 1. Anatomy of a traffic stop. Before we talk about what you can refuse during a stop, you really have to understand the rules the police are supposed to play by. A traffic stop is a detainment, and the baseline rule for this comes from the 1968 Supreme Court case Terry v. Ohio. Basically, the court established that under the Fourth Amendment, police absolutely cannot detain you without specific, factual justification. It can't just be a hunch. It can't be a gut feeling. They must be able to point to specific and articulable facts that reasonably warrant stopping you in the first place. We call this threshold reasonable articulable suspicion, or RAS. What this means in plain English is that an officer's actions have to be based on objective facts that lead them to reasonably conclude a crime or infraction is happening. For instance, the fact that you were speeding? That is RAS. The fact that you just look nervous? Nope, that is not. Keep that in mind because RAS is the literal boundary line dictating what an officer can and cannot demand from you. And it is absolutely crucial to understand the clear distinction between these two standards. Reasonable suspicion, the lower standard, justifies that initial pullover and a brief investigation. But probable cause, that's the much higher standard required to actually arrest you or conduct a full-blown search of your vehicle and property. Section 2, the stopwatch, starts now. Now, the second you are legally pulled over, a constitutional stopwatch begins ticking on your detention. The 2015 case Rodriguez v. United States ruled that a traffic stop is strictly limited to its mission. And that mission includes just a few very specific tasks: checking your driver's license, verifying your vehicle registration, checking for outstanding warrants, and issuing the warning or traffic citation. That is the whole shebang, nothing more. This flow is pretty straightforward. Once the officer initiates the stop, they perform those specific mission tasks. But here's the kicker. Once the officer completes or reasonably should have completed those tasks, the mission is over, and the detention must end. Period. In that Rodriguez case, the Supreme Court explicitly ruled that police cannot artificially prolong a traffic stop just to conduct a dog sniff or launch some unrelated fishing expedition without new, individualized, reasonable suspicion. Look, if they pull you over for a broken taillight, the stop should only take exactly as long as it takes to write a ticket for a broken taillight. Extending it beyond handling the matter for which the stop was made directly violates the Constitution's shield against unreasonable seizures. Never consent to a search of your property, because a search tears your vehicle apart, wastes your time, and waives your Fourth Amendment rights. Section 3. Unrelated questions and de minimis delays. This brings up a massive debate in the lower courts. What if an officer just asks a few casual questions unrelated to the stop? You know, the classic conversational interrogation like, "Where are you coming from?" or "Where are you heading?" Well, look at this number, 25 seconds. In the case United States v. Campbell, an appeals court actually ruled that just 25 seconds of unrelated questioning unlawfully prolonged a traffic stop for a broken turn signal. The big takeaway here is that the Supreme Court soundly rejected the idea of de minimis, or minor, time extensions. If an action prolongs the stop by adding time to ask you unrelated questions, it's a Fourth Amendment violation. You do not have to provide an itinerary of your life. While you are absolutely required to hand over your license, registration, and proof of insurance for a valid stop, that constitutional stopwatch means the officer can't unlawfully delay those tasks. If asked these questions, a proper lawful response is, "Officer, I am not discussing my day. Here are my documents. Am I free to go or am I being detained?" Stay calm, stay polite, but do not surrender your Fifth Amendment rights just to make small talk. But what if you aren't the one driving? Let's move over to the passenger seat and see how this builds into the rights of everyone else in the vehicle. Section 4. Rights of the passenger. The rights of passengers were directly addressed in the landmark 2007 Supreme Court case, Brentland v. California. The court recognized that, let's be real, no reasonable person would feel free to just open the car door and walk away while the police lights are flashing. Because of that, the court ruled that passengers are also legally seized during a traffic stop. This is deeply important. Why? Because it means if the initial stop was totally unjustified, the passenger, not just the driver, has the legal standing to challenge the constitutionality of any evidence found against them. Section 5. Stop and Identify Laws. This brings us to a highly complex intersection of the Fourth and Fifth Amendments. If you are seized in a vehicle, do you actually have to tell the police who you are? Well, the 2004 Heibel decision confirmed that states can legally compel you to identify yourself. But, and this is a huge but, only if the police have a valid reason to detain you, meaning they have reasonable suspicion that you're committing a crime. However, looking across different jurisdictions, your obligation varies wildly by state. Some require identification during any valid Terry stop, like Nevada or Ohio, but others, like Texas, only mandate it if you are actually being arrested. It is absolutely critical that you know your specific state's stop and identify laws, because those lines on the map dictate your exact legal obligations. Let's break down the caveats. While drivers universally have to hand over their license due to state vehicle codes, passengers are a totally different story. If you're a passenger in a vehicle during a standard traffic stop, you are detained, sure, but you are not the subject of the investigation. The driver is. Unless the officer has reasonable articulable suspicion that you, the passenger, have committed a crime, in many jurisdictions, you are not legally obligated to provide your ID. Officers will often demand IDs from everyone in the car to run for warrants, but that is just a fishing expedition. The Fifth Amendment continues to protect you from self-incrimination. Section 6. The Constitutional Balance. All of these intricate rules are designed to strike a really delicate balance between your individual liberty and the safety of law enforcement officers on the road. For instance, while officers are allowed to frisk you or the immediate lunch area of your car to keep themselves safe, it is not an automatic right. First, they must specifically suspect you are armed and dangerous, and only then can they conduct a limited pat-down strictly for weapons. The Supreme Court has made it crystal clear here. The tools given to police for traffic safety cannot be exploited as a blank check for random, unfettered criminal investigations. Highway safety is one thing. Fishing for unrelated crimes is another entirely. Tyrannical officials rely on your ignorance. When you know the law, you shift the balance of power back to the people where it belongs. As lower courts continue to debate exactly how many seconds constitute a constitutional violation, are everyday citizens truly equipped to protect their rights? Just remember, the side of the road is not the courtroom. You make your stand respectfully, you document everything on camera, and you fight the battle in court if your rights are violated. Thank you for adventuring with us today. If you found this information valuable, share this explainer. Education is knowledge, and knowledge is power. Stay safe out there, keep your cameras rolling, and I will see you in the next one.